This is an It's Your Break production, so sit back and take a break. Welcome to It's Your Break. Hi, I'm Jonathan Mertz, and coming up on today's show, well, it's all about a topic I really need to be paying attention to. It's about your health. And we're going to be talking to a certified exercise physiologist. What is that? We'll find out next here on It's Your Break. It's Your Break will return right after this. Subscribe to the It's Your Break podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, YouTube, and iHeartRadio. And now, back to It's Your Break. Welcome back to It's Your Break. Hi, I'm Jonathan Mertz, and like I mentioned earlier, today's show is going to be focused around your well-being. And I definitely need it because I need to lose some weight, if you can't tell. But seriously, today is really focusing on us, and that's what we're going to focus on. And we have a certified exercise physiologist, which I know is a mouthful to say, but it sounds so much cooler than a personal trainer, and it's so much more. Well, why is that? Well, we'll find out in just a few seconds. But if you want to find out about today's guest, you can go to their website, beactiveiseasy.com. Phung Tran is the exercise physiologist that we're talking to today. And Phung, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hello, Jonathan and everyone.
So what got you started to get on this path of being healthy and basically kind of going towards your certification of a certified exercise physiologist? What led you down that path?
It's just basically my childhood. It's especially in high school. And the problem was, I was moving between Vietnam to the US. So, besides the cultural, like the language barriers, there was like the cultural shock. Because like, if other countries, like, we walk around everywhere. We have very good public transportation. Like I used to have a bicycle that I used to ride around the city. And so, I was a very active kid. Mm-hmm. And because of it, I could eat whatever I want. Like, I can eat whatever I want, but
right.
I didn't care. And I was very strong, too. Like, I was doing sports, everything. And so once I came here, suddenly, you need a car.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, this is not going anywhere. Like, I just got to cut off my active time, like, from, I would say, not going to brag, it was like 10 to 15 hours a week to, like, 0.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, and the thing is, I wouldn't be able to stop myself from eating the way I was, because that's how my body's used to, it's just used to being consuming that much calories. And, I just got ballooned up, I got bigger. And, so once it comes to college time, I'm like, okay, this needs to stop. I need to do something about it. And, instead of, just Googling things like what people were saying, I was like, okay, you know what, let me major in a random thing called exercise science. So my whole family was like, what the heck is that? What do you want to do with this? Like, what do you mean exercise science? And basically what we do is we learn everything about exercise. So we're thinking about anatomy, physiology, also a little bit of nutrition, psychology, biomechanics. So everything that you would need to be active. And so, that's what helped me. Like, I got myself moving again. I'm learning how to get myself moving. What's happening when you're moving around? What's happening when you're transitioning from, being sedentary to a little bit more active, and how to keep it up too. Like how to communicate with people so that they can start doing it. And, like for my perspective, like that's what I've been through, that's what I've learned. And then once this whole thing happened, last year, I was like, you know what? A lot of crappy things on Instagram, and I felt like I can help, like, instead of listening to random things on Instagram, you can listen to me. And that's how I got started.
Wow, that's really, really fascinating story. And I would have never known you were from somewhere else. I mean, the accent doesn't give it away.
Thank you. It is a lot of hard work.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating, and I find it really, really fascinating when people do come from another country into the United States that sometimes they lead down these different paths and they get opportunities they wouldn't have elsewhere. And so, the fact that you got into this field was very, very fascinating. And for me, it's like, oh, it's the perfect person to talk to because COVID, this whole being indoors, and I got extremely, extremely less active for COVID, and I've gained more weight, and I'm actually at the highest weight that I've ever been, and I definitely want to start being more active and kind of shedding those pounds. So one of the things I've always, you always hear is be active. It helps with weight loss. But is it just exercise alone, or is there more about diet and nutrition together that makes things happen?
So basically, exercise is only 30% of weight loss.
Oh,
So it's
wow.
only control, yeah, only 30%. And the rest of it is diet and, mental health, your sleeping, and nutrition. And basically, be active is sort of like an oversimplification of things.
Hmm.
Like, you've gained something, you have to shred weight. But actually, if you're, maintaining like you being alive, costs a lot of calories. It is very true, and so that's why nutrition comes in much more than just exercise, because what basically what you're putting in, because your body has like a limit of what it's using like normally. So like for a woman like me, in her 20s, not too much. So like I would, like, if I like just lie down on my bed 24 hours, I would waste about 1,300 calories just by doing that. And so that's where it comes in. It is the balance act between what you eat, how much you eat, and then how active you are. And being active is more than just trying to lose weight. It's also like strengthening your bones, your muscles, like you're feeling better. So like they're basically relating to one another,
Hmm.
but they're not. So it's a balancing act of everything.
Well, one of the things I bring that up is because you see some of these infomercials, like the old P90X and everything else that you're seeing, the Pelotons, and they're showing people working themselves to death and like huffing, and you look like they're so exhausted. I'm like, why would I want to put myself through that just to be
Right.
healthier and lose weight?
Hmm.
It's like that doesn't look, too fun for me. I mean, but you hear
No.
people that they get addicted to it, because there is like, people that get adrenaline from it and get addicted to it. So that's fascinating that you mentioned that.
It's because you basically have to start small. So for me, like before, I wouldn't be able to do that, but I've been training myself for over a year since, the pandemic. So now, like, I want those. I literally want those just because it takes, a lot of work to be wanting that. And it does have a positive feedback loop of between exercise and, you feeling better. Like, say we put the body, positivity aside, is it does have adrenaline when you work out. And so I used to actually in college, I work out a lot once I have examed a lot, just because it does release a lot of stress. Like I don't feel as stressed as normal. And so, but it is a process that you have to start, like start small. Like you shouldn't be comparing. Like that's a biggest problem I have with the fitness industry. Like you have to be working really hard to feel good. But taking a dog on a walk, or like for me, I started with playing with my cats, that would help.
Absolutely right. Right, right. So, you know, one of the things I also thought about is when people are getting into these exercises, diet, nutrition, and you hear there's all these different methods out there. There's the keto, people are going vegan. There's the Mediterranean diets. When it comes to nutrition, how should we start viewing things? Because it's portion control, but it's also a variety of things that you eat. Correct?
Right. And I would say don't stress out too much over it. Like I have a client who told me like she would have a ginger ale every day, a whole can, and then on the weekend she'll have a drink or two. And she was like, "Do I have to quit cold turkey? Like I'm working with you. So should I be doing that?" And I tell her like don't try to quit cold turkey. Don't try to force yourself to like eat healthier or whatever. You should be like sort of fixing your diet bit by bit. So what I told her to do is actually, instead of drinking the whole can to herself, she can share it with her mom. So just drink less.
Right.
So you would still be able to drink ginger ale every day. So that's you're happy, but you're now drinking less because you're sharing it with your mom, which create, your relationship with her as well. So now you're having two things to be happy about. One, that ginger ale, and two, relationship with mom. And then over time she actually finds that her skin got better, so now she doesn't even bother with ginger ale anymore. It just somehow naturally got out of her diet. And that's what I tell people to do. Like, you know yourself what you're eating, like what's like the bad food that you're eating, and instead of trying to quit cold turkey and then leave making yourself feel sad and feel bad and then feel hunger for it, what you should do is just enjoy it less. Like, try to make yourself feel happier when you have less of it, and then over time it just naturally just suddenly get out of your system. And now, like, you just, like, for her, like, she can't have ginger ale that much anymore because her skin would break down with acne.
Oh, wow.
And so she's like, okay, I'm not having that crap anymore. Maybe, when I go on a party, I'll have a drink or two, but no more ginger ale for me. That was a process over 3 months, I would say. So yes.
So what do you recommend in a day-to-day diet? Like, if somebody was going to be on your exact meal plan, what do you expect out of like a meal?
So I wouldn't have a meal plan per se,
Mm-hmm.
but it is more, I would basically have my clients for 7 days of the week write down everything that they ate. Like, it's not, I don't care about the amount either. You can just write down, like, morning you eat this, afternoon you had this, and then you have a snack, and then dinner, supper. And then after a week, we can look through, which macronutrients that you're over consuming, that, you can sort of cut back a little bit. And so for my friend, that was that ginger ale, and then a lot of alcohols on the weekends.
Right, right.
Like, personally for me, it was Oreos. Like, at the beginning of this, I got myself a huge box of Oreos from Costco. Those.
Oh, yeah. There was a study that showed that people are just as addicted to Oreos as they are to, like, some hard narcotics. So that's very interesting that you mentioned that.
Yeah, and so, like, instead of, shaming myself for doing all of that, I was like, maybe I don't need to eat the whole pack, I can just eat 2 cookies, that's where it comes in. So now, like, I forgot, like, now that you talk to me about this, I literally still have half of that box.
Oh,
Because
wow.
I'm like, okay,
I mean,
I would
Costco
split it
boxes are
up.
huge. So,
Yeah, they're huge. They're big, and I still have it a year. I didn't know that I would have it still,
right.
have it. So yeah, so it's just a process. Like, you would let yourself go from time to time, and it's nothing to feel bad about. Like, that's not something you should feel ashamed about. It's more about, okay, I know that this is, my tripping point. How do I reduce it bit by bit? Don't compare yourself, don't feel bad, because we don't live that long to feel bad. Just gotta keep going.
So, in a day-to-day diet, what really should people look at reducing? Is it the sugar intakes, or is it what are things that we need to really just reduce? Some people say reduce fats, some people say increase fats. So you always get these things, and I notice
Oh.
you do that after you look at what they've consumed for a week. But in general, what should we be aware of?
You should, basically everything needs to be in balance. And so the US government, like, actually has an app, very good. Nobody's talk about it, but they do have a calories tracker,
Hmm.
and then they shows you, like, how much of each macronutrients that you should be eating. And it's like the myplay.gov thing. Have you
Hmm.
seen
I
that?
have to actually.
Yeah, so they have very good app over there, and they don't advertise it, but it's basically tracking your calories and tell you, like, if you're doing this or over or this bad. Because the problem with, the diet things is we're on, like, a cycle of reducing fat, or reducing sugar. So now we're with the keto diet. It's about reducing sugar, but give me 5 years and then we're on the fat thing again. I'll tell you, we're gonna go into that cycle between fat and then sugar being
Right.
bad. It's always happening. Because the problem with diet is like you're trying to limit yourself, like you need to reduce something, and that's not how it works. You need all of it. It's just the proportion of everything that you have to eat. And so I would say is I would be more into intuitive eating, where you eat things and then you eat slowly, you enjoy your meals, and then you feel like, so my friend, like her skin got acne and that stuff. So like what I do is that you feel how your body responds to what you eat, because it's your body is very smart and very good at that. Just gotta be within yourself and be honest.
Well, that's fascinating. This is such a fascinating topic that and from your background, it's a very unique perspective, and when you think about and you put all these things together, how it does, if you live it in balance, if you're too much salt, then you got problems in your, possibly your cardiovascular system, and then if you get too much sugar, then you can go on the diabetes spectrum. So it's very interesting that that balance is really needed. So that's fascinating.
Yeah, and you don't have to follow any diet. Like I would advise my clients, if you hear a diet that has a name, usually that's a scam.
Right.
Because you can't do it, because they're trying to limit you from eating. Like, I have my client, one of them is a student, and he went on a keto diet, and your brain only use sugars, only use carbs as its energy. And so if you're a student, you're thinking a lot, and you're
Mm-hmm.
telling me you're depriving it from its only energy source, obviously your grades is gonna fall. I'm sorry.
Oh wow.
What do you want? You're gonna feel bad. You're gonna feel tired all the time. Your grades gonna fall because your brain is being starved of a food. So you gotta have sugar.
Right. That's interesting. I didn't realize that. So that's
Yeah.
fascinating. One diet I would say, in my opinion, just because I've read up on it, is that might be an exception, and it is the Mediterranean diet, because it doesn't do portion control. It just happens to say here are the things that they're eating and how they eat it. So my doctor is one of them who's suggested that to me at one point, and I didn't
Hmm.
follow it obviously, but and I'm like, well, now looking back, I was like, yeah, maybe I should have. They eat most of the protein in the morning, and then they start weaning it off a little bit at lunch, and then by the dinner time, they didn't have any protein, but they were still
Oh,
throwing in,
really?
yeah, they were throwing in carbs and
Oh.
nuts and things throughout the meals as well. So, I mean, it didn't, really have those things. And basically, it's just a lifestyle of how the people in the Mediterranean area eat on a day to day basis. A lot of fish, a lot of
Yes.
chicken.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it is with their lifestyle as well. So
Correct.
that's something, because I've noticed is in Europe, and then, in the Mediterranean, people do m- be more active than we are
Yes.
here as Americans. And I've read, I think, a research paper that says those people over there, their diet kind of help, but what helps them better is actually access to healthcare. and and the fact that they don't rely as much on cars like
Well,
we do.
yeah, and the healthcare system, I think, is that's a whole total different topic
Yeah.
altogether. And I think we treat the symptoms more than we treat the problems, and that needs to be adjusted. But if anybody wanted to find out more information about the services you offer and the things that you do, where do they need to go?
And so obviously we're connected on Twitter, and I post a lot of my blogs on Twitter. So you
Hmm.
should find out my account as Be Active is Easy. But I am also active on Instagram, still the same username, Be Active is Easy. And you will see me doing random reels, just fun things between me and my cat there. And also, I do have my signature program, Polish Your Possibilities, is currently open, and you can find out more about it on my website at beactiveiseasy.com.
If there's any advice that you would give anybody, just on a day to day basis of whether it's the mental health, exercise, or just diet, how should they just treat life in general when it comes to that?
So I would say do enjoy yourself, be honest and then break down your goals, because you have to understand why do you have this goal and what do you want out of it, so that you can break it down into smaller chunks. So, instead, like, I have people coming to me trying to lose 30 pounds, and I'm like, why? What's your, I would just ask that point blank. And, you know, losing pounds is easy, but are you going to keep it up? Why are you doing it? And that's why you need to break it down into smaller chunks. So like, maybe this week I need to work on my diet. Next week is going to start, playing with my cats a little bit more so that I'll be more active. And those gonna snowball into big things that you would never imagine that you will be able to do a year from now.
And that's such a good advice. And it got me thinking already. I'm like, why am I doing it? Well, when I graduated high school, I was 155 pounds, and now I'm almost 100 pounds heavier. And I can feel what it's doing to my body, and how I sleep at night, and so I'm conscious of that, and I am right, thinking of that, but I didn't write it down. So maybe if I wrote it down, it would be more conscious to me. That's very fascinating. Thank you for sharing that.
No problem.
And hopefully we can do this interview again and catch up later. Maybe I made some progress and we go from there. But thank you so much for coming on the show.
Not a problem at all, Jonathan. And I hope that you're gonna do well, because now you're that aware of it. You can do it. Like, you can do it. Just be honest to yourself.